Welcome ladies and gentlemen, my name's Camel, and more importantly, welcome back to the Elder Scrolls Detective series. A series in which we investigate, curate, speculate, hypothesize, theorize, and quite often simply highlight and discuss cool, interesting, and hidden things that can be found within the Elder Scrolls games. Be sure to hit up my social medias, links to them can be found down in the description along with other Elder Scrolls Detective video links. Today's investigation entails the discovery of a mysterious entity named the Sunken One. While the invasion of Tamriel by Mehrunes Dagon seems simple enough, there may just be some occult powers at work here. Puppet masters or keystones in the puzzle, judging the lands and pushing forth the punishment unto its people. Something we're all familiar with, the city of Kvatch. Some may love it, some like myself might be devastated we never got to rebuild the once great city back to its legendary glory. During the main quests of the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion, upon liberating Kvatch from the grips of Mehrunes Dagon and his hordes of foul Daedra, the player will be titled the hero of Kvatch. But do we really know what happened here? Do we really know all of the forces at work? Maybe we do, maybe we don't, but there may just be more to this story. The underlying, underbellied goings-ons will be revealed and discussed. To begin this trial by wit, we must first come to a small homestead found just to the north of the Acropolis that is Kvatch. Laying peacefully in shaded spring breezes is Shedcombe Farm, a quaint, cozy and crop-sprouting slice of fertile property. There actually seems to be an enormous amount of food growing here. This must be some incredibly potent soil. Perhaps this area is laden with verdant pastures, perhaps there is something more at work here. Anywho, nestled in the bushes near the cottage will find a modest stable and pen, with no horses or any livestock for that matter. Has the farm been abandoned? Hard to say at this point. The main asset that this petite plot boasts is of course the stone-clad cabin, peppered with seasonal flora and resting comfortably with a slyly smug kitcheness, wryly resembling biscuit tin art. Seems to be unlocked, so let's make our way inside. Ah, a quest. The Sunken One. I've entered what appears to be a recently abandoned farmhouse. Perhaps if I search around, I may find a clue as to the owner's whereabouts. Okay, let's have a snoop around the room and see what we can uncover. In the corner, there are two small tables adorned with simple bowls, which are cradling equally simple food produce. In the opposite corner, there is a small double bed and a small chest of drawers. There is also 3 chairs, each of which is facing the center as if 3 congregated, sat and spoke in a hushed huddle. What they spoke of, only they know. In the final and 4th corner are a stack of barrels and boxes, all of which contain nothing of interest. Luckily, there is a table in the middle of the room, with 3 chairs and a twin candle gingerly dusting its warmth across the center of the lodge. At first glance, it seems to be bare of any eyebrow-raising qualities until we notice the small piece of paper lying in the bowl. This is Slythe's journal, page 1. I've come across a discarded page from a journal of a Slythe Serengi in an abandoned farmhouse near the ruins of Kvatch. It mentions some sort of pilgrimage to bring an offering of great value to something called the Sunken One. All signs point to Sandstone Cavern nearby. I should proceed there, as I fear for Slythe's safety. And by the way, Slythe is a Dunmer, a dark elf. Hence the voice.
As midnight approaches, I still watch the fires burn. The great city of man, Kvatch, lay in ruins. They didn't heed my words. They didn't listen to my voice. Now, they are all paying the cost of ignorance. The Sunken One strikes swift and hard. He swats those who oppose him as if they did not exist at all. The excuses of man fall upon deaf ears. The Sunken One has no pity. He has no mercy. He only sits below and passes sentence. And now, with a mighty stroke, he's toppled one of man's pitiful blights on his land. And yet, he still hungers. His appetite is ferocious. Kvatch will not be the last city to fall by his hand. The world of man grows more and more corrupt, and it angers him. Man's lies and deceit will be his undoing as the Sunken One grows impatient and no longer waits for or accepts the proper offerings. The burden is mine to shoulder. I am the last who knows of he who shakes the ground. If I do not bring him the offering, who knows what city may fall prey to his whim? Anvil, coral, or perhaps he will turn his eyes on the greatest boil of all, the great imperial city itself. No, I must not let this happen. I must get the offering to him like my father did before me. Man may be fallen in his eyes, but they must have time to learn the Sunken One's teachings. Destroying man now would be a waste, when I am certain that given the chance, they will come to see his ways. Yes, I will do this thing. I will brave the depths of Sandstone Cavern to see him. My weapons will be my will and my word. The Sunken One will watch over me and guide me. I must depart soon, before it is too late. If anyone finds this page, let them know that I, Sandstone, did this for the good of all man.
We'll pick this letter apart and boil it down into its important components later on in the video, but for now, let's make our way north, down the hill. Here, there is a pond, which if you've seen my Oblivion's Easter egg video, you'll know that this is home to one of the giant Nirnroots. Anyway, quite close by, a cavern can be found, its entryway nestled between rocks, like a necklace hanging between two firm, breathtaking. Now this is a cave known as Sandstone Cavern. Inwards we journey. Scattered through the passageways are several varieties of animals and creatures, imps, bears, wolves, trolls, rats, most of which could come as a great challenge for a lonely farmer. For the hero of Kvatch, no problem, but navigating these caves alone is actually a very dangerous task for an unarmed Slythe to undertake. Now, in one of the larger and deep rooms of Sandstone Cavern, we can find this crevice, at the base of which is a chest. Now, those with eagle eyes will notice there is a note on top of this very chest. This is Slythe's journal, page 2.
As I descend into the depths of Sandstone Cavern, I wonder to myself, why would the Sunken One test me so? Have I not been loyal? Have I not spread his word? Have I not obeyed his laws? This journey has been cruel and unfair. I have nearly met my end more than once. I don't know if I can make it to his home, but no, I cannot think this way. I must get there. I must see him. If I do not, then the world of man is doomed. I dare not to tarry longer, as I do not wish to suffer his wrath. I must get the offering to him.
Again, we'll pick apart the important parts of this later on in the video. Now, just down the way, a tad further from the chest, in a dark corner, we can actually find another door. This leads to the Sandstone Big Rooms. Sounds fun, let's go. Granted, while there are some big rooms in here, it's really nothing out of the ordinary. There is a lit fire in here, so this could be a sign that Slythe was in here recently. But further in we go, into the depths of the Sandstone Big Rooms. Once more, we have a room with a crevice running down the middle, except this one has gnarled tree roots sewn into the lip like teeth on the jaws of a great beast. Making it even more ethereal and spooky are these pale, ephemeral mists that flicker in and out of existence. They veil the cave's undercroft, a pit of whence none return. Down here, quite near the final wall of the Sandstone Labyrinth, we can find the final resting place of Slythe Saringi. I've located Slythe Saringi's corpse. I should search around him to learn the conclusion to his sad journey. On the ground, in front of his corpse, there is a brown hessian sack. As we can see, it is quite ominously labelled, "The Offering." It contains an assortment of semi-precious and precious gems, jewels, metals, and valuables. This must have been what Slythe was going to offer up to the Sunken One to hopefully persuade it from killing more. On Slythe's corpse, we can see he wore nothing more than monk robes, poor defense, and even poorer offensive capabilities, not a weapon to be seen, despite the cave being filled with all kinds of combat-based foes. Most importantly though, he carries Slythe's journal, page 3. On Slythe's corpse, I've located his last journal entry. It seems he fell here believing he was truly going to meet his god and give an offering to him, to help all of Tamriel. His death is a sad end to such a well-intended sojourn.
I'm fallen. I failed. I will not reach him in time. And because of me, man is doomed. The creature jumped me without warning, and before I could dispatch it with my magic, it dealt me a mortal blow. Now, all of Tamriel will face wanton destruction and death. His wrath will be unspeakable. His anger immense. Kvatch was but a small amount of his true potential. All hope is lost. The Sunken One wakens, and soon man will feel his hunger.
We'll have a look at all of Slythe's journal pages a little bit more closely later on, as now it's time to meet the Sunken One. After reading this final journal page, he will appear. The Sunken One has come. And once encountered, the Sunken One will be hostile towards the player, proving that it has no patience for man. The Sunken One is a storm atronach, and our quest will only be complete upon its death. But before we undergo that task, there are many questions to answer, and many wrinkles in the fabric of this tale that beg to be ironed out. Firstly, why did Slythe believe that the Sunken One was responsible for the destruction of Kvatch? In his journal pages, it would seem that the Sunken One has been a local legend, an entity that exists to those that follow the old ways. Slythe tells of his father taking offerings to the Sunken One, as if he did not, the Sunken One would unleash his wrath upon the people living on his land. Slythe believed that Kvatch fell because its people did not heed his warning about making the proper offerings to the Sunken One. They did not even believe him when he spoke of its existence. Which is fair. Imagine living in the big city, then a random farmer comes and tells you that you have to take precious gems and offerings into a random cave to an unseen entity called the Sunken One to prevent punishment on a genocidal level. The farmer, in this case Slythe, would sound like a madman, so it's no wonder the people of Kvatch did not heed his warning. But Slythe was correct, at least the Sunken One does exist. So, the people of Kvatch did not heed Slythe's warning and their city did fall. So there are some bridges between the Sunken One and the destruction of Kvatch, but they aren't strong. And as we know from the main quests of the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion, the Oblivion Crisis was the doing of Mehrunes Dagon. Also, if we kill the Sunken One, this has no effect on more Oblivion Gates opening. So at the very least, we can confirm that this whole Oblivion Crisis is not the doing of the Sunken One. But we can actually draw some rather interesting parallels between the Sunken One and the fall of Kvatch. Firstly, we must understand who is the Sunken One. Well, it's a storm atronach, which straight off the bat is rather unique, as on Tamriel, storm atronachs are typically encountered near Oblivion Gates or guarding caves and ruins occupied by Daedric cultists. Well, the Sandstone Cavern does not house any Daedric cultists, and while it is kind of close to an Oblivion Gate, we must remember that Slythe's father brought offerings to the Sunken One, so it has been in this cave for at the very least 2 generations, and as the Oblivion Gates outside Kvatch have just spawned, that most certainly does not explain how the Sunken One has been down in this cave ruling these lands for so long. Now there are powerful conjurers who can summon storm atronachs, but even those who can only bound them to their will for a few minutes, if that, nothing even close to 2 generations. Daedra can appear on Nirn through summonings by both worshippers and or conjurers. These can be either short-term summonings or rituals and or pacts designed to bind the Daedra to Nirn on a more permanent basis. And in case you're wondering, yes, Storm Atronachs are a subspecies of elemental Daedra, which are of course Daedra. So all of what I'm telling you applies to the Sunken One. Even more interestingly though, in some cases, Daedra of sufficient power may be able to manifest on Tamriel on their own terms and by their own will. So we can conclude that the Sunken One was either bound here by a pact or is powerful enough to be here willingly. It also boasts 100 more health than a standard Storm Atronach, highlighting that this isn't a standard elemental Daedra, but something more, something greater, something with more power. Now, despite Storm Atronachs being a species of elemental Daedra, they don't actually have an allegiance to any of the Daedric princes. Instead, they hail from a pocket plane of oblivion called Leviants. Historically, the Frost Atronachs and Flame Atronachs have been known to work under Mehrunes Dagon, as seen during the events of Battlespire. However, Storm Atronachs are not on that list, but they can be seen in the Deadlands, which is Mehrunes Dagon's plane of oblivion, the place you go when you enter an Oblivion Gate in the game The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion. So, at the very least, in The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion, there are some Storm Atronachs that can be found in the service of Mehrunes Dagon. So the Sunken One, being in allegiance with Mehrunes Dagon, is a completely viable set of circumstances. Whether this would be a new allegiance or an old one, we can't say. Now let's assume the Sunken One was on the side of Mehrunes Dagon. Well, this would actually explain a couple of things when it comes to the destruction of Kvatch. Firstly, Sandstone Cavern probably runs straight underneath Kvatch, so the Sunken One's dwellings could very well be seated below the city. As Slythe states, the Sunken One grows tired of the people inhabiting his lands. And if this was the case, the Sunken One would be in a pretty damn good position to do just that. It's an incredibly powerful elemental Daedra, and it lies directly below the city underground. So if Mehrunes Dagon came to the Sunken One and explained he wished to destroy Kvatch, the Sunken One would have agreed, assuming that Slythe's musings are correct. Now when we first arrive at Kvatch, one of the survivors says that when the attack begun, a huge creature came over the walls. It's not very specific, but I must say I haven't heard of any other huge creatures, nor do we see any. So during the initial attack on Kvatch, a huge creature destroyed the city, and a huge creature that we don't see or hear of at any other city's invasions. What could that huge creature be? Are there any huge creatures near here, unique to the area of Kvatch that would have destructive capabilities? Oh, I know! The Sunken One! And I must say, looking at the ruins of Kvatch, it sure looks like it was hit with an earthquake or some form of huge elemental force. There are no signs of siege engines, yet the whole city has been flattened. Is there some kind of elemental unique to the area of Kvatch that could cause an earthquake? Oh, I know, the Sunken One. Now at this point, we should definitely take note that the Sunken One is also referred to as, and I quote, "he who shakes the ground." Earthquake. So it's certainly starting to look more and more like the Sunken One had some hand in the destruction of Kvatch. And while this isn't concrete evidence, it's actually a lot stronger than we may have first thought. Let's not forget that the mere fact that the Sunken One exists on Tamriel and for such a long period of time means it boasts exceptional power. Maybe that's how Kvatch fell so easily, unlike all of the other cities and townships, because Mehrunes Dagon had the assistance of a uniquely powerful elemental Daedra, named of course, the Sunken One. I'll read again this passage from Slythe's journal, page 1. "As midnight approaches, I still watch the fires burn the great city of man, Kvatch lay in ruins. They didn't heed my words, they didn't listen to my voice. Now they are all paying the cost of ignorance. The Sunken One strikes swift and hard. He swats those who oppose him as if they did not exist at all. The excuses of man fall upon deaf ears. The Sunken One has no pity, he has no mercy. He only sits below and passes sentence. And now, with a mighty stroke, he's toppled one of man's pitiful blights on his land. All of that which now makes a lot more sense, or at least that information is much more applicable, and we can quite clearly draw parallels between his writings and the events that passed in Kvatch. Nothing is confirmed, but it's definitely not something that should be overlooked either. So I do hope that you have enjoyed the journey, the discovery, and the in-depth look into the parallels between the Sunken One and the fall of Kvatch. Was Slythe wrong? Is the Sunken One simply a storm atronach that helped keep these lands? Or was it truly a power to be reckoned with, passing judgment unto the races of man and mer that it was so fed up with? Be sure to let myself and others know what your theories and conclusions are for the Sunken One and the demise of Cyrodiil's second largest city, Kvatch. If you have any information, facts, evidence, speculation, theories, or anything to do with the subjects in this video, be sure to let myself and others know. If you have any ideas for something that should be covered in the Elder Scrolls Detective series, be sure to let me know, or look into whatever strange and wonderful topics you present. If you enjoyed this video, please do me a kindness and leave a like, it makes your video look good. Leave a comment with your Elder Scrolls Detective ideas and your theories about the Sunken One. And of course, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more videos similar to this one, please subscribe. It helps me know that people enjoy these kind of videos and will result in more of them in the long run. Be sure to click the little bell icon next to the subscribe button right here on YouTube so you are notified when new Elder Scrolls Detective videos are uploaded. Other Elder Scrolls Detective video links can be found in the description, along with a link to the Fallout Detective series. Now down there is also links to my social medias, including Twitter and Patreon. Be sure to hit them up if you would like to support the channel, and be sure to follow me to keep up to date with what I'm up to. As I'm sure you know, all of my time and energy goes into these videos I create for you to enjoy, so your support is greatly appreciated and most welcomed in any and all forms. Feel free to check out the playlist on screen. Thank you very much for watching, thank you for supporting the channel, and I'll see you very shortly in the next video. I'll see you there soon.